Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
All right, welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Alexis Jimenez, founder of many enterprises, including Megatech Distributor, LLC, a leading IT service provider and computer parts distributor, as well as AV Capital. We're going to talk a lot about real estate today. He currently has over $27 million worth of assets through AV Capital and through his personal holdings. Alexis is also a proud alumnus of Babson College, where he completed the prestigious 10K small business program by Goldman Sachs. And I think, hey, rather than reading you a really long introduction, I want to just get right into it and welcome Alex to the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been interesting that, as we were talking before, that we're connecting again, because we met before on a multifamily meetup. Actually, it was a real estate meetup, but I know that you are very involved in multifamily, and I guess that's why we're here, right? Or we're going to speak about real estate overall.
Oh, real estate in general, because it's all good. And I know my listeners, they do all kinds of things, including multifamily. So yes, through Gabriela Deco, she's great. And if you're ever out in Metro Detroit, she has some of the very, very best events out in Ann Arbor and Detroit. So yeah.
Definitely. She's awesome.
Yeah, beautiful. So yeah, why don't you start by telling me, I always like to ask people, so when you're at a cocktail party, how do you tell people, when they ask you, hey, what do you do? How do you answer?
Well, as you mentioned before, I own an IT company, and that was it's still my primary source of income. This is a business that I just started with $2,000 in capital back in 2006. And the business, basically exploded a couple of years later, even during the market crash in 2008. To this point, we're doing business in 27 countries. Our customers are 500 Fortune companies. We have contract with the federal government as well. And, at some point in life, I had the problem that most business owners have. It's when you're making money, what are you going to do with that money, right? So you have inflation. If you have the money sitting in the bank account, you have a problem with inflation, right? Also, you have the taxes implications and, other factors. So in 2012, I decided to jump in real estate. And I remember, back in the days, buying a property in Tampa, Florida. That was my first investment property. But I remember buying that property for $46,000 and only adding $6,000 in rehab, which is, back in the days, and, those were the prices. I'm pretty sure that you remember that.
Yeah.
But, that was my first investment. I had a mortgage. I remember $400. It was the monthly payment, and then I rented out for $900. So, I made some, cash flow. And then 3 years later, I decided to sell the property for $75. I made some money. But using that example, and then a couple of other examples, along my journey, I understood something. The last time that I sold a property, and these are, single family homes, but last time that I sold a property, that I remember selling that property for $215, and then a year later, the guy that bought it for me, he sold it for $380,000. That was the last time that I thought, you know what, real estate is a long-term game. Because when I saw that, I was like, okay, let me go back to the first investment property that I bought in Tampa, Florida, the one that I mentioned. And when I saw the property on Zillow, the property worth $250,000. And even that I sold it for 70, I bought it for 46, I sold it for 75, I made some capital gain. Again, one more time, I was like, wow, wait a second. Cash flow is good, but I think that if we can hold this property for a long-term, play, we're going to make more money. And I understood that it's not only about the cash flow, also capital gain, but also tax appreciation, principal down, because anytime that we're making payments, the principal is going down. So we're creating a gap in our favor, right? Between the mortgage balance and the property, the appraisal value. So again, these are things that I wish that I could, learn before, but, I learned it in the hard way. And now, because of that, now I am more involved in assets like multifamily assets. And also I'm exploring right now co-living. But basically, that's kind of like a long story short about my journey in real estate.
Yeah, well, I love it. And I love the history too, because you mentioned getting in 2012. Well, I mean, those were the days, right? I mean, you're right almost at the very bottom of the real estate prices. It's been an incredible ride up. Well, why don't we merge into the housing outlook for 2024? Here we're recording the beginning of March 2024. What do you see as the most likely scenario, best case, worst case? What's ahead?
Well, 2024 is going to be an interesting year, right? For a couple of things. The interest rate, everybody said, or the Fed is saying that, the interest rate is going to come back down a little bit, which, I have seen some, better interest rate that we saw last year, 2023. However, it's very interesting because this year we have elections, right? So I've been wondering if this is a strategy for the elections, once we elect or the president is elected, are we going to see the interest rate continue, going down, or are going to go up again, or what's going to happen? I think, and that's something that I think that everybody's like concerned about. But however, we don't control that. What we can control though is that what we're going to do this year. And I think that if the interest rate settle down a little bit, I think that everybody, or the people that are looking to invest in real estate, I think that now is the time to invest before see what's going on or what's going to happen after, the president is going to be elected.
Yeah, 100% true. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Fed didn't seem to try to protect the incumbent president.
Yes, yes. And what they're trying to control is the inflation, right? And we have seen that somehow they controlled it because we have seen, at least that's what the graph dictates, right? We see the inflation a little bit more control. But again, maybe if we would be in 2022, 2023, or maybe any other year that is not an election year, is going to be different. But because this year we have the elections, I think that it's very difficult to predict what is going to happen this year. But, I think that we should take advantage of the next coming month before November, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be, when we see those rates fall, it could be a good time to lock things in. We really don't know where interest rates are going. And I'm glad that you acknowledge that, because it seems like the consensus is just down, down, down. And we're hoping and banking on it, survive till 25, all this. No one of us knows, even the dot plot, right? I mean, you look at those dot plots compared to the last dot plot, there's a lot of scatter, right?
Yeah.
The Fed says we're going to do this, and then before they even do it, they've changed their mind, and their future projections significantly change from the prior. So
And that's the thing, again, based on history, it's very difficult to predict, the decisions that they're going to make. So I think, like any other investor, any other business owner, I think that we can control the things that, we can control. And, what we can control right now is what are the decisions that we're going to make in the next following months before the election, because after November, we don't know what's going to happen, especially, there's always I said an election gap between November and January. The president is elected, but now, they're changing or they're doing these changes in the government that we don't see usually until January. So I don't think, and then, December, we have the Christmas as well. So I think that between November and January, there's a 2, maybe, or 3 months period that we shouldn't take decisions until things settle down, with politics, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly the wild card, what's going to happen, certainly going to shake things up. Well, I'd love to hear more about your investing thesis, et cetera. I mean, let's go from sort of the 10,000-foot view, the macroeconomics down to, so where are you investing? Why do you invest there? And how do you protect your investors in this turbulent financial environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have been very careful with the decision that I have been making, especially, in the last 15 months or so. Last year, our last acquisition was a 30-unit deal in Vegas, 4.7, a small asset. But what it was good about this deal is that we locked it up at a 4% interest rate. It was an assumable loan, and the property was cash flowing. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at, because if you see, unfortunately, there's a, couple of foreclosures going on right now, and people are scared, and I get it, because there's a lot of people that they locked up properties before the interest rate increase, and now they have these bridge loans coming due, or they have these loans that the interest rate or change every month, depending on the prime, and they have been hit hard, and I have seen good operators. It's not about the operator. I have seen good operators with 15, 20 years of experience having their first foreclosure, not because of them as an operator, but because of the situation that's happening out there. So because of that, I've been trying to be very careful, and when I underwriting the deal, I had been underwriting the deal very, very, very conservative. And even so, we had been preparing ourselves with some amount of reserves in cash to oversees what other things can happen, in the future. For example, let me give you an example. For example, that deal in Vegas, we needed to raise only 2.4. We ended up raising almost 2.9 because we wanted to have, $500,000 in the bank account just to be protected. On top of that, we have, the 4% interest rate, assumable loan, but also the property was cash flowing positive as a long-term rental, and we are turning those units into midterm rental, which is what going to increase the cash flow immediately, in the next couple of months. So there's a, couple of strategies that we implemented intentionally and carefully, because we have investors, investing, and not only investing with money, but investing in trust. They're trusting us that we're going to perform, and that's very important for any operator in the industry. It doesn't matter if it is multifamily, it doesn't matter if it is stocks, it doesn't matter if it is single family home, whatever your investment strategy is. If you're raising capital, it's very important to plan for the worst, and be prepared for it.
Absolutely true. And I love that you have the working capital, $1 million in the bank for that's a lot of a margin of safety. And it's one of the things that I see the sort of freshman operators as the first thing that people seem to forget in their underwriting is, hey, we're going to have some working capital because you don't know what happens when you take over. I remember interviewing an operator who says, hey, well, what's one of your secrets? He says, I don't spend anything on CapEx for the first 60 days because I don't know what I got myself into, right? We do all this due diligence and then you take over and it's still a wild card. You don't know what's been hidden from you. And even if sellers all on the up, you did all your due diligence, foundation cracks, HVAC goes out, something crazy, yeah, it's It's a very, very good thing to have that cushion. Anyway, sorry, talking too much about working capital. I hope I didn't put everybody to sleep there.
No,
But
I think that is important to talk about it. And now that you mentioned about the underwriting, I think that something that I have been doing, we were in a bullish market. Everybody knows that between 2012 and 2022, real estate created a lot of millionaires by accident and not by knowledge and experience. It was easy, to make money during those 10 years. It doesn't matter the asset, multifamily, single family, I remember people, overbidding the selling price. And, I remember having conversations with fix and flip guys, saying, hey, I locked it up for 500 and, I haven't started the project yet. And people are offering me 550, 600, it was crazy. It was easy to make money, in other words. So my point to bring that up is that now that the market shifted, I needed to see more deals and vet or filter more deals in order to make sure that, this is the asset that I'm going to move on with. To the point that I have been underwriting deals. And at this point, I don't feel comfortable to move on with an asset. I mean, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have an asset in the next couple of months. But my point is that, it was easier before to do the underwriting that now that we have to be conservative, because I don't want to be emotional. That's my point. I don't want to be emotional. We get excited. We're going to start raising capital. But at the end, it's too much pressure, on our shoulders. And the commitment that we have with the investors has to be, we have to commit, we have to perform. We have to make sure that we're going to return their capital back.
yeah, 100%. And obviously the reputation comes first. That's huge. What about markets? You mentioned Las Vegas. That was your most recent acquisition. What other markets do you like?
I like Atlanta. I like Texas overall. Unfortunately, Texas and Florida, it's been very difficult to pencil out deals, because at this point, the not the interest rate, but the insurance and the taxes are crazy. I have seen a couple of deals, not mine, but I have seen people buying small assets in these markets, but I think that is very difficult. I really love both markets. I think that it's a matter, to wait until the interest rate come back down, or maybe we can do other strategies, like maybe like the assumable loan, maybe subject twos, or maybe seller finance, those kind of things. But overall, to answer your question, when I see a market or I see an opportunity, I really like to see the fundamental economics on this market. For example, I want to see what's the population growth in the last 10 years, but especially in the last year, because everything, shifted last year. I would like to see the population growth. I would like to see the vacancy rate is decreasing constantly every year. What's the median household income on average, right? And the reason is because I would like to see at least 3x the monthly income, the household monthly income versus the average rent in the area. So that way, as an operator, I can be prepared for that. So let's say that the average rent in the area is $2,000. So if that family is bringing at least $6,000 monthly income, I feel comfortable, to target that market. Also, the unemployment rate is increasing, is decreasing. I remember back in the days, man. Remember in 2008, Detroit. And I always use Detroit as an example, right? Because I remember traveling to Detroit, and it was crazy, man, what was happening in Detroit, back in the days. And it was because the automobile industry got hit, very hard. People, went out of the city, moved to other cities. So using Detroit as an example, we don't want to see if you're investing or targeting a new market, or maybe the market that you're investing in. It's important to see the unemployment rate. Who are the employers in that area? Who are the companies, especially companies? What is the sector that has the highest percentage employment is in the area? For example, using again Detroit, automobile was the industry that it was dominating the city. So that's not, I know that that's changed, over time, and Detroit is beautiful right now. Everything changed. But back in the day, that is a very difficult situation, at least for me, to make a decision on an investment in a city like that. Because again, if the industry got hit, there's a lot of employees that are going to lose their job, and now they're going to move to other cities, and what's going to happen to us as landlords. Again, that happened in Houston a couple of years ago when the oil industry got hit. I remember people moving out of Houston. So that's another factor. Who are the largest employers, and how is the industry divided? It's only one industry dominating the market, or it's a couple of industries dominating the market. And the other factor that I see from the economics perspective is what is the percentage renter occupied housing units versus owners. And I see markets or cities that there's more people renting than people buying houses. And for me as a landlord, that's another good economic factor as well.
Got it. Well, I love that you don't just mention the top factors. Everybody looks at population growth, job growth. People look at salaries and home prices, crime. But you also mentioned things like occupancy, right? When you see declining vacancy, then that's a sign that you have strong absorption. You've got a lack of oversupply, and that's huge because you can look at all those other statistics, and they're all focused on the past. But we know that it takes time to erect a building, right? So we can see around the corner if we just take the time to go out and look at those sorts of things, and that makes a big difference. And then the rent constraints, I think that's huge. I can't stand these overpriced markets where people are already paying a third, on average of their pay. I mean, that's unsustainable. If you're underwriting for rent increases, you aren't going to see it if you're already close to those rent constraints. So yeah, I think that's very, very huge. I hope people are listening. I feel like I see light bulbs going on all across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the other day I did an exercise. A lady came up to me and she asked me, how can we, find this data? It's easy. I looked it up in FRED, which is, the Federal Reserve economics site or website. And I use HUD as well, but if you think about it, even that the data is there, how many cities or counties this country has? It's a lot. So what I did the other day, I created, now that we're taking advantage of AI, I created a prompt that I input on Google Bard, and I didn't use ChatGPT because the data, I think that is ChatGPT is bringing data until April 2023, I think so. But Bard, which is the competitor, and it's from Google, they're live, they're connected to the internet. So for these type of things, I want live data, or at least, the most recent data. So anyway, I prompted the information or this prompt in Google Bard, and it was like, something about, I don't remember the exact words, but it was something about, give me or analyze the whole country and give me the results based on population growth, vacancy rate, median household income, those all the economics that I mentioned before, unemployment rate, and so on, and analyze them and give me the top 3 cities in the entire country with the best combination or the best results, combining all the economics factor before. And it was interesting to me that the top one, it was Buckeye, Arizona. So I talked to this lady, and she's from California, and she said, you know what, now that you mentioned that, I had 2 properties in Buckeye, Arizona, and without knowing what you're telling me right now, both properties are cash flowing like crazy. So, her words, her testimony confirm what, the AI gives me. So going back to your question, what are the markets that I'm targeting to at this point? I think that because the industry shifted or changed, we have to adapt or at least look other markets because, where Florida and Texas are struggling right now, I see other markets doing very well. Last week I was in Charlotte, and I was talking to people, and Charlotte is booming, it's hot. The market is still hot in this environment. And again, what the AI gave me, the information about Buckeye, I never, thought about Buckeye. I will think about maybe Phoenix, but not Buckeye,
Right.
Arizona. So, and these are the good things that we have the tools. This is 2024. We're in 2024. We have the tools to pivot and find other markets and other strategy that we can invest in.
I love that the AI gave you Buckeye. That's a market that came to my attention. And you're right, it is I think it's the west of Phoenix, and it's a suburb that's growing like nuts. And it's crazy. I mean, it's like they can hardly keep up with the infrastructure for all the people that want to move out there. You're close to Phoenix, and yet at the same time, you enjoy somewhat better prices. You're not like right in the city. It's crazy what's going on in Buckeye, and being able to cast a somewhat wider net like that and capture some of these amazing growing places. I only looked at one deal out there, and unfortunately we couldn't make it work. But yeah, Buckeye, Arizona. If you haven't looked it up already, ladies and gentlemen, definitely do yourself a favor. Very interesting story. Well, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say that people focus on the deal and sometimes or most of the times on the underwriting and trying to make the numbers work. But I think that it is more important the economics, because that's basically the foundation. You can have the best deal, the numbers can pencil out extremely well, but if the economics in that city aren't the best one, your foundation, it's weak. Any wind that blows out is gonna, the house is gonna burn down. You know what I mean? And that's very important too. For me, the first thing that I see is the economics. Is this is a good city to invest in? Okay, perfect. All right. Check number one, check. Then we can proceed, with the deal, the underwriting process, and so on.
Yeah, I love it. When you take the time to choose the proper market, if you find something that has good tailwinds, you could enjoy that for many, many years. It's very hard to lose money when you pick your market right. When you invest in some of these more difficult markets, you have to choose your deal very, very carefully.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Love it. Well, look, before we wrap, I do want to go into our lightning round, but I want to ask you about your Spanish language material. So you're always putting out Spanish language posts, and I think that that's a very interesting gambit. So tell us about that. How's it working
Yeah,
out for you?
that's interesting because everything happened. I'm from Puerto Rico originally, so my
Mhm.
primary language is Spanish. And it happened when I was involved with this syndication group, the group that we take down the biggest deal, right, together. And in the same group, there were, let me see, I think that 2 or 3 ladies from Latin America, their primary language was Spanish. And when we were on the writing and having our, meetings every week, the information, the conversation, it was in English because most of the GP group or the highest percentage, is people from here, from the US, where their primary language is English. So, we were having these conversations in English. And I remember, a couple of times these ladies, they approached me personally, and they were like, Alexis, can you help us out, to maybe do a one-on-one, and maybe you can translate information for me in Spanish, so that way, we can understand or maybe process the information more easily. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So, we hop on a Zoom call a couple of times, one-on-one, and I was doing the underwriting for her, so that way she can, understand the numbers better. And these ladies, they were raising capital. Basically, that was, her role their role in the GP group. But, as a capital raiser, they wanted to know, the numbers. And for her, for them, because there was like two or three of them, for them, it was easier to understand the numbers in Spanish. So that way, anytime that we had a conversation in English, it was easier for them to apply them. So anyway, I was doing that. But then suddenly, somehow, they spread the word out to other groups. And then suddenly people are starting to reach me out, and these are people that lives here in the US, but they're people that migrated from Latin America. They're first or sometimes second generation, but their Spanish language is still their primary language. So suddenly they spread the word out. I started to do these Zoom calls, but at some point I felt overwhelmed, and I felt that it was taking time from my time. But at the same time, I wanted to help them. I wanted to support them. I wanted, to be with them during the process. So I told them, okay, let's do something. What if we do a Zoom call every Friday at 1 p.m.?
Mhm.
And I'm willing to help you guys, and explain the information in Spanish, so that way, anytime that you have the information in English, it's going to be easy. Okay, so let's do that. It was originally, it was a help, right? It was a support Zoom call, and we started that only with 5 or 6 of us, every Friday. But anyway, the word spread out, and to the point that now we have more than 150 people in that group. Everybody, live here. There's only one lady that she lives in Spain. The rest of them lives here in the United States. Their primary language is Spanish. They all of them speak English, but there's some concepts, especially in the underwriting process, that is easier to understand in the primary language. And it's been interesting because, something that started to only help people, now it's a community, it's a group. And I was invited to speak in other events. For example, in 2 weeks, on March 16, I'm gonna be in Maryland speaking to a Spanish group community. There's more than 200 people in that group, and all of them, they want to learn more about multifamily. And these are people, they have cash, they want to invest, they want to be in this, but they don't know how to do it. And I'm gonna be them, supporting them. So it's been a beautiful journey to support the Spanish community group.
I love it. I feel like it's a great example of the best that capitalism has to offer. You see a niche and then you fill it and everybody benefits. That's really beautiful. All right, so then I have to ask you, so you mentioned being from Puerto Rico. I imagine the name Mark Antony, that's very famous for you.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so the
Mark
reason I ask,
Anthony,
yeah, go ahead,
J-Lo,
please.
and there's others.
Of course, of course. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. And I actually had a custom hat made up. It came from Toronto. I'm going back there in a couple weeks. And I had as the motto, voy a bailar, vivir mi vida.
Voy a bailar, vivir mi vida, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, great stuff. And yeah, actually, funny thing, it's like everything comes in threes. We're planning our family trip to Puerto Rico. So I got invited to a real estate conference in Orlando, but I've taken the family to Florida a half dozen times. We're done. Do something different this time.
Love it, man. And it's gonna be your first time?
Well, no, I've been there once. We've been to San Juan on a cruise, and we got to see El Yunque. But
But that was a
this
long
time
time
we're going to go
ago.
all over.
Okay, cool. Because now, especially, I know that you're gonna, visit the island and do touristic stuff, but you will notice the hospitality industry is booming right now in Puerto Rico. And actually, one of my projects is to build a hotel, small boutique hotel in Puerto Rico. I've been working on that for the last 12 months or so. And just to give you a heads up, the government approved the permits to build a Hard Rock Cafe. It's going to be the first one in Puerto Rico, a Hard Rock hotel. It's a $500 million investment. Hilton says that they're going to build in the next 2 years 10 new hotels in Puerto Rico. So the hospitality industry is booming, and it's because of the tax incentives that the island is providing. And at the same time, this is a U.S. territory.
Yeah,
So it's easier for us here in the US to invest in Puerto Rico. It's like investing in any other state. I mean, you have to do your due diligence, you have to comply with the local laws, like in any other city.
sure.
But what I mean by that is it's not the same thing investing in, in other countries in Latin America than in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is part of the US. And you got the tax benefits, the incentives, and you have also and the hospitality industry is booming. So that's why I'm targeting Puerto Rico as well, but to build up a small boutique hotel.
Yeah, I love it. In case anybody's wondering, I know the biggest tax incentive, at least that I'm aware of, I think you stay there like what, 181 days, and then you get residency, and that's hugely beneficial because that's one of the places in the world where people get it, that you want to attract wealth, you don't want to scare it away.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits, but the most important three ones, the tax credit. So basically, let me give you a simple example. Let's say that you buy the property for $2 million, then let's use simple numbers. Let's say that you buy the property for 600,000, you add $300,000 in repairs, and then your first year of operations, your expenses are, let's say, $100,000. So you're all in between purchase price, repairs, and your first year of expenses, you're all in $1 million. So what the government does is they'll give you tax credit of 40%, and you can use it in your income tax, or this is tradable. You can sell it on the secondary market for 90 cents of the dollar, 95 cents of the dollar, and get a cash injection immediately in the business. So imagine buying a deal for $1 million all in, but basically you're buying it for $600,000 because you're basically getting, cash back in your business. So now multiply that. If you're doing a deal for $10 million, $20 million, imagine the amount of cash that you can get back into the business. Also, you have the business itself, the tax bracket is at 4%, but the investors, they have 100% tax exemptions. And there's other, benefits as well. So this is like a very, very overall explanation, but that's the reason why everybody is investing in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, beautiful. Just like the LIHTC tax credits, for those that are familiar. If you're not, definitely look into it. It's an interesting niche market. Well, anyway, hey, look, we got to wrap up. But before we do, I want to ask you my favorite questions, which I call the 7. This is our rapid fire round. You ready, Alexis?
I'm ready. This is a
All right.
surprise.
If you could be known for only one thing, what would it be?
I would say I'm a man of my word. I'm the type of person, we are something that hurt me a lot is that even with contracts, people don't honor their words. And I'm the type of person that, yes, we need to, fill out contracts. It's very important. We need to draft contracts. But besides that, I'm a man of my word, and when I'm committed, I'm all in.
What's the greatest lesson in leadership you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Lose money on purpose to protect the relationship and protect the words that I committed to.
What personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
I think that consistency is key, especially when, 20, 30, maybe 50 years ago, things delayed. I mean, changes delayed. We were seeing like the industry or the country or whatever is changing, changing every 5 or 10 years or so. But now with the technology, AI, and a lot of things happening, the noise that is out there, social media, and so on, things are changing rapidly. So I think that even when things are changing, you need to be consistent on what you're doing.
Love it. Okay, so after all that depth, now it's random question time. Tell me when to stop cutting the deck.
Okay, stop.
All right. Oh, what is your favorite reality TV show?
Ooh, you know that I don't watch TV. Can we change the question?
I know I had a feeling like Alexis is a serious guy. He probably doesn't watch reality TV. Here, well, I'm cutting the deck. I'll just tell you, my favorite is Shark Tank. You know, when I go out to angel investing, that's all they play, and we laugh. It's like it's not like this in real life, you know.
Well, now
But
that you
what else are
mentioned
we gonna
that,
watch?
now that you mentioned that, for some reason, when you asked me the question, in my mind, I had like these TV shows like the Kardashian, those kind of things, you know. But Shark Tank is a good one, and I really love The Profit, you know, from Marcus Lemonis.
Yeah. All right, I love it. Okay, great. We we salvaged that question. All right, what's one tip or trick that investors can implement in their business today?
Today, I think that use AI. I think that everybody's using AI, and I still see, especially in the real estate industry, I still see people not using AI, and this is not good. Because imagine, let's go back. You know, imagine that we're living now, or today's date is February or March 1990, and now the internet is, you know, is the new trend, but you don't want to use internet. So now moving forward, you know, to 2024, we use internet for everything, you know, to pay our bills, to research, to do everything, you know, to having this type of calls. So that's, we're living right now what we lived before in 1990s, but with the AI. So I think that it's important to adapt AI in your business, because in the next 10 years, everything is going to be based on AI.
Yeah, I love it. Coming as I do from data science, beautiful. Can you name a book that's helped to forge you as a leader and as an entrepreneur? Tell us why.
A person?
No, I mean a book. A person would be
Oh, a
great too,
book.
but yeah, book.
You know, I was reading the other day a book that I really want to share here with the people, because it's a really a very good book to read, and basically it's Buy Back Your Time from Don
Mm.
Martell. And this is a book that, especially for those that are in business and real estate as well, you know, as an investor, sometimes we want to do the things by ourselves, and I get it. You know, I understand. No one is going to do it better than you. But when he understands principles, there's a couple of principles. But when he explained principles like, even if you have one employee that is performing at 80%, you're buying 80% of your time. It's better to have an employee performing at 80%, even at 60%, than you do the things by yourself at 100%. But because at some point you're going to burn out. So it's better to have 10 employees at 80, 60% capacity than only you doing things at 100% capacity.
Beautiful. And can you give us a quote to help forge our listeners as leaders and entrepreneurs?
That one, buy back your time.
Buy back your time. I love it. Thank you so much, Alexis. This has been a beautiful interview. So much knowledge and experience. I just want to thank you for taking the time to come speak to our audience today. And before we go, though, let's make sure we know what is the best way to reach out to Alexis Jimenez.
Instagram, Alexis Jimenez PR. So basically it's ALEXISJIMENEZ PR, Alexis Jimenez PR.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.